Poppy Playtime is a horror-themed video game that has captured the fascination of players around the world with its dark and immersive atmosphere. At its core, Poppy Playtime revolves around the concept of survival horror, where players navigate a dilapidated toy factory while being pursued by eerie, animated toys. This stark departure from typical children's toy imagery introduces players to a world filled with unsettling themes, such as abandonment, the uncanny, and the harrowing consequences of corporate negligence. The dark themes embedded in the narrative are significant as they not only propel the game's storyline, but also enhance its psychological impact on players, creating a haunting experience that lingers long after the game is over. The significance of these dark themes in Poppy Playtime lies in their ability to evoke fear through a combination of suspenseful storytelling and immersive game mechanics. For instance, the use of a seemingly innocent toy, Poppy, as a central figure in a horror narrative, subverts expectations and plays on the fear of the familiar, turned sinister. The factory setting, once bustling with activity and now eerily silent, echoes real-world fears of industrial decline and the unsettled ghosts of the past. These aspects contribute to a chilling atmosphere that is as psychological as it is visual. In terms of real-world applications, the game's dark themes have inspired discussions about the impact of horror in media and its effectiveness in exploring human fears. Additionally, Poppy Playtime's narrative can be analyzed through the lens of cultural and societal anxieties, making it a poignant topic for academic exploration and critique. Supporters of Poppy Playtime's approach argue that its themes offer a safe space for players to confront and process their fears. However, there are potential challenges and controversies, such as concerns over the impact of horror games on younger audiences and the potential for desensitization to violence and fear. Critics may also question whether the game reinforces harmful stereotypes or contributes to a culture of fear. The introduction of these dark themes not only sets the stage for the game's atmosphere, but also influences other aspects of the narrative, such as character development and plot progression. By delving into the sinister side of what is typically perceived as innocent, Poppy Playtime raises pertinent questions about the nature of fear, memory, and what it means to face the unknown, thereby enriching the entire gaming experience and expanding the dialogue surrounding horror in digital media. The origins and inspiration behind the game's lore are crucial to understanding the chilling appeal of Poppy Playtime. This concept delves into the creative foundation of the game's narrative, examining the sources that spark the airy and mysterious elements woven throughout the game. It is significant because it provides players with a deeper appreciation of the game's storyline, enhancing the immersive horror experience by linking it to broader cultural myths or other media influences. Poppy Playtime draws significant inspiration from the unsettling atmosphere of abandoned toys and factories, reminiscent of urban legends and horror lore, where the mundane becomes terrifying. The setting itself, Horrifying, a forsaken toy factory, echoes themes of neglect and decay, common in horror narratives that capitalize on the fear of once innocent objects turning sinister. This fascination can be linked to real-world locations like the hauntingly empty amusement parks, epitomized by places such as Japan's abandoned Nara Dreamland. These settings evoke a deep-rooted fear of the unknown in the past, effectively translating into the game's eerie environments. Another real-world inspiration comes from the uncanny aspect of dolls and toys, paralleling popular horror icons like Chucky from Child's Play. These toys, meant to be sources of joy, become focal points of horror when imbued with life or malevolent intent. By twisting the familiar into sources of fear, Poppy Playtime taps into a primal discomfort that resonates with players on a psychological level, making the horror more intimate and disturbing. Opinions supporting the game's lore often highlight its clever use of nostalgia and subversion of childhood innocence as a method to enhance horror. By leveraging these elements, it establishes a unique twist on the horror genre, appealing to a wide audience who might find the blend of nostalgia and fear particularly intriguing. However, this approach is not without its challenges. Critics might argue that the game capitalizes too heavily on existing horror tropes, potentially leading to a narrative perceived as derivative rather than innovative. Additionally, the depiction of childhood symbols as sources of horror can be unsettling for some players, sparking debates on the psychological impact of such themes. In essence, the origins and inspiration behind Poppy Playtime not only enrich the game's dark allure, but also connect to broader themes of fear and nostalgia. This foundational aspect influences the game's design and storytelling, creating an interconnected web of horror that makes the game both captivating and hauntingly memorable. The concept of key scary legends within Poppy Playtime revolves around the myths, stories, and eerie lore that enhance the unsettling atmosphere of the game Poppy Playtime. The survival horror game developed by Mob Games is set in an abandoned toy factory where the player encounters sinister toys, each accompanied by chilling backstories. These legends are crucial as they deepen the game's narrative, making the player's experience more immersive and intense. By intertwining gameplay with dark lore, the game magnifies its sense of fear and unpredictability, engaging players not just through gameplay mechanics, but through psychological horror. Two notable examples stand out in illustrating these scary legends. Firstly, the character of Huggy Wuggy, a tall blue creature with unsettlingly sharp teeth, is said to have once been a beloved children's toy that turned malevolent due to mysterious, possibly supernatural factors. This transformation from friendly to fearsome taps into the primal fear of the familiar becoming unknown and threatening. Secondly, there's the legend of the mysterious experiments conducted within the factory, suggested by various clues scattered throughout the game. These experiments hint at unethical practices that led to the monstrous transformations of toys, a narrative device that plays on real-world anxieties about technological and corporate overreach. Supporters of this lore-rich approach argue that the legends add depth and intrigue, encouraging players to explore and piece together the fragmented stories, much like a detective unraveling a mystery. This method keeps players invested in the game beyond the immediate survival challenges, appealing to those who enjoy narrative-driven experiences. However, some challenges and controversies arise with this approach. Critics might argue that the reliance on dark lore can overshadow gameplay mechanics, potentially alienating players who prioritize action over narrative. Additionally, there are concerns that the intense horror elements, amplified by these legends, may not be suitable for all audiences, particularly younger players who might be drawn to the toy-themed aesthetic. Ultimately, the scary legends within Poppy Playtime are interwoven with its thematic elements, influencing the game's atmosphere, character development, and narrative progression. They provide a backbone for the eerie environment and the psychological scares that the game relies on. By crafting a world that is as narratively rich as it is visually and atmospherically disturbing, these legends ensure that Poppy Playtime is more than just a horror game. It's a complex storytelling experience that resonates with the audience on multiple levels. In examining the symbolism and psychological elements in Poppy Playtime, we delve into the intricate narrative layers woven into the game, which evoke fear and curiosity. Symbolism in games like this refers to the use of imagery, characters, and story components that represent deeper meanings, often tapping into our subconscious fears and emotions. These elements are not merely decorative, but serve to enhance the gameplay experience by immersing players in a richly textured world that prompts introspection and emotional engagement. The significance of these elements in Poppy Playtime ties directly to its impact on players. By employing symbols and psychological triggers, the game crafts a haunting atmosphere that keeps players on edge, encouraging them to question the narratives and confront their fears. For instance, Huggy Wuggy, with its eerily cheerful demeanor and unsettling appearance, symbolizes the duality of innocence and malevolence. This imagery plays on childhood fears of toys coming to life when the lights go out, a common trope in horror that amplifies the tension for players. In a real-world application, this concept parallels the horror film genre, where familiar environments and objects are often imbued with sinister qualities to elicit a psychological response. Similarly, in literature such as Stephen King's works, everyday items become the source of terror, connecting with audiences through recognizable yet twisted realities. This approach deepens the immersive experience by resonating with players' own fears and emotions. Supporters of this perspective argue that the psychological elements and symbolism in games like Poppy Playtime contribute to a more profound and enriching experience, pushing the boundaries of interactive storytelling. However, challenges arise in the form of controversy over whether such elements could be too intense, especially for younger audiences. Critics might argue that these psychological tactics, while effective, could lead to unintended anxiety or distress, thus sparking debate over the appropriate age for such immersive experiences. These symbolic and psychological elements interconnect with other aspects of the game's lore, enhancing the narrative depth and player engagement. They encourage players to delve deeper into the backstory, unraveling the dark mysteries hidden within the game's universe. Overall, the symbolism and psychological elements in Poppy Playtime serve as a crucial component that not only enriches the horror experience, but also propels players to explore the broader themes and legends within the game's narrative.